The first time they came, it wasn't an invasion or a war. It was worse. The alien visitors were thousands of years ahead of us in technology, intelligence, and power. When their massive ships darkened our skies, we thought it was the beginning of something amazing, a new time when humans would finally join the stars. But they didn't come as equals. They didn't come as conquerors either. No, they came with something worse, pity. They called themselves our benefactors, speaking in calm, talking down tones about how humanity was still young and fragile. They gave us their scraps, outdated reactors, simple ship parts, old weapons, things they had thrown away long ago. This was their way of keeping us beneath them, making sure we never became a threat. The leaders of Earth took these gifts, eager to get even the smallest piece of alien technology. They called it a new age of growth, a golden time of progress. But to those who saw past the smiles and handshakes, it was clear. This was no gift. This was a leash. The world changed, but not how we hoped. Factories changed, scientists studied the leftovers, and governments fought over who should get what. The aliens watched with amused indifference, believing we would do nothing more than fight among ourselves. They were wrong. Hidden beneath their pride, beneath their belief that humanity was just a race of children playing with thrown-away toys, they made a mistake. They underestimated us. It started in secret. A small group of engineers, soldiers, and dreamers came together, not for countries, not for money or power, but for one purpose: to prove that humanity was not a race of beggars, but of builders. Piece by piece, they took the scraps, the so-called useless tech, and began building something new, something no one had seen before, a warship unlike anything Earth had ever dreamed of. They called it Iron Requiem. When the aliens finally noticed what we had done, it was too late. The first shot that rewrote history wasn't fired in anger. It was fired in defiance. The day Iron Requiem powered up, the universe changed. It wasn't smooth or beautiful like the ships of our so-called benefactors. It was rough, patched together with salvaged alien metals and human cleverness, a monster of steel and fire. The engine cores burned hotter than anything Earth had ever made. Its weapons were cobbled together from discarded energy cannons, and its hull was strengthened with plates torn from old war machines. Yet despite all its flaws, it was ours. The people behind it had no illusions. They knew what this meant. The moment the aliens realized what we had done, they would not be amused. This wasn't some small rebellion. This wasn't about defying authority. This was proof, undeniable proof, that humanity wasn't some helpless child in the cosmic plan. We had taken their trash and built a monster. It started with an anomaly. The alien watchers floating in their clean, untouchable stations above Earth detected a surge of energy deep in the asteroid belt. Strange readings, an unusual power signature. At first, they dismissed it as human incompetence, maybe an experiment gone wrong, another failed attempt to copy their gifts. But then Iron Requiem moved. The first test run was simple, nothing more than a drift through the floating rocks, its engines burning against the emptiness. It should have been impossible. Humans weren't supposed to have ships this big, let alone one capable of war. Yet there it was, cutting a path through space like a steel sea monster, something born not from privilege, but from pure, stubborn determination. The aliens noticed. A single scout ship, small and sleek, was sent to check. Its pilot approached carefully, scanning the structure before it. The readings didn't make sense. This ship was nothing like theirs, a mix of crude technology and mismatched parts. But deep inside the scout's calculations, behind all the arrogance, was something else: fear. The humans weren't supposed to be capable of this. Not yet, not for centuries. The scout opened a channel. The message came in their usual diplomatic, measured tone. Humans, this is a violation of the technology rules. You are using unauthorized equipment. Power down your vessel and prepare for inspection. No response. The pilot repeated the command, this time with a sharper edge. Human vessel, acknowledge. You are breaking. The ship's cannons roared. A single shot, a blazing spear of energy burning through the void, slammed into the scout's hull. The impact shattered its shields in an instant, sending it spinning away, alarm screaming in protest. Humanity had just fired its first shot against the so-called benefactors. The universe would never be the same. The moment that first shot landed, everything changed. The scout ship, small and fragile compared to the beast we had built, spun wildly as sparks and fire burst from its damaged hull. It had never expected to be attacked, not by humans. We were supposed to obey. We were supposed to bow and thank them for their scraps. But today, the rules were rewritten. Inside Iron Requiem, the bridge was dead silent except for the hum of its massive engines. Every eye was fixed on the screens, watching as the alien scout struggled to regain control. Then the transmission came through again, but this time there was no arrogance, no talking down, only stunned disbelief. Human vessel, cease fire. This is an act of aggression. Surrender immediately and... Captain Grant, the man who had given everything to see this ship come to life, leaned forward. His voice was calm, steady. No. A pause, a long, tense moment where the entire crew held their breath. Then the alien voice returned, but there was something new in it, something we had never heard from them before. Panic. You don't understand what you've done. If you resist, there will be consequences. We have protected your species from destruction. Do not throw that away. Grant's expression didn't change. He simply nodded toward the weapons officer. Fire again. This time it wasn't just a warning shot. The plasma cannons roared to life, sending a storm of energy into the crippled scout. Its shields flickered, overloaded, then died completely. The ship cracked, split apart by fire and force, and in an instant it was gone. Now nothing but floating pieces in the cold emptiness of space. Silence filled the bridge once more. No cheers, no celebrations. Everyone understood what had just happened. We hadn't just fired the first shot. We had drawn a line in the sand. Somewhere high above Earth, the alien overlords were watching. The moment that Scout's signal cut out, alarms must have blared in their clean halls. Officers would be rushing to stations, trying to understand the impossible. The humans had built a warship. The humans had defied them. And the humans had won. The question now was simple. What would they do about it? The answer came faster than expected. Within an hour, long-range sensors picked up movement, dozens of signals closing in fast. Not scouts this time. Warships. Real ones. The benefactors had decided to respond. They were coming. The fleet arrived faster than expected. Within hours of Iron Requiem's first kill, the alien warships surged into the system, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in tight, disciplined formations. They weren't here to talk. They were here to remind us of our place. On the bridge of Iron Requiem, every screen lit up with flashing warnings. Sensors screamed as ship after ship appeared, surrounding our position like a steel net. "They brought a damn army," muttered Lieutenant Harris, eyes darting across the threat display. Captain Grant didn't flinch. "They think we're going to surrender." His voice was steady, cold. "They're about to learn the truth." The alien command ship broadcast its message, its voice deep and powerful, filled with the weight of absolute authority. "Human vessel, you have committed an act of war. Power down immediately. Surrender your technology and submit to our judgment. Resistance will result in complete destruction." A tense silence followed. The crew exchanged glances. The message was clear. They weren't just here to destroy Iron Requiem. They were here to crush humanity's spirit. Grant's lips curled into the faintest smile. He pressed a button on his console, opening a system-wide transmission. Every human colony, every outpost, every satellite tuned in as his voice echoed across the void. "This is Captain Grant of the warship Iron Requiem. For too long we have been told we are weak, that we are unworthy, that our destiny is to kneel." He exhaled slowly. "Today we say no." A beat of silence. Then he turned to the weapons officer. "Fire." The ship's rail guns ignited, hurling metal slugs at near-light speeds. They tore through space like meteors, slamming into the lead alien cruiser with unimaginable force. Shields collapsed instantly. A second later, its hull ripped open, spilling fire and debris into the void. The alien fleet hesitated, just for a moment, and that was all we needed. Engines roared to full power as Iron Requiem surged forward, guns blazing. We weaved through the chaos, dodging plasma blasts and missile swarms, every shot we fired striking with deadly precision. The aliens had come expecting an easy victory. They thought they'd be punishing a disobedient child. Instead, they found something else. They found humanity at war. And we were just getting started. The battle exploded across the void. Plasma beams slashed through the darkness. Railgun slugs ripped into hulls, and missiles screamed through the battlefield, leaving trails of fire and death. Iron Requiem moved like a beast unleashed, darting through the chaos with surprising speed for something so massive. But the aliens had numbers, too many. For every ship we crippled, more closed in. They fired in coordinated bursts, trying to trap us, trying to overwhelm us. On the bridge, red warning lights flashed as shields buckled under the relentless assault. Sparks flew from overloaded consoles, and the ship shook from the impact of an enemy torpedo that had nearly broken through the hull. "Shields at 30%, shouted Harris, gripping the edge of his station. "We can't take this forever," another officer yelled. Grant didn't hesitate. "We don't need forever. We just need 5 more minutes." Because while the alien fleet was focused on Iron Requiem, they didn't realize something else had been set in motion. Down on Earth, inside hidden military bunkers, operators were standing by, waiting for the signal. Dozens of planetary defense cannons, once thought useless under alien protection, had been secretly rebuilt with the very technology they had tried to hold back, and now they were locked onto the sky. Grant tapped a control on his chair, sending a single coded pulse to Earth, a confirmation. Then he smiled. Across the planet's surface, the cannons roared to life. Beams of energy and superfast projectiles launched into the heavens, ripping into the enemy fleet from below. The aliens never saw it coming. One of their warships, untouched until now, was the first to go, struck directly in its reactor core. It exploded in a violent chain reaction, taking 2 others with it. The battlefield turned to chaos. The aliens scrambled their formations, breaking apart. They had thought this was a simple punishment mission. They had thought Iron Requiem was the only threat. They had thought wrong. And in that confusion, in that moment of hesitation, we struck back. Full power to forward railguns. Grant barked. The warship surged ahead, its cannons hammering into the disoriented enemy ships. One after another, they fell, crippled, burning, retreating. A species that had once pitted us was now running from us. And for the first time in history, humanity wasn't just surviving. We were winning. The tide of battle had turned. What started as a hopeless standoff had become something no one, especially not our so-called benefactors, had predicted. Humanity was fighting back, and we were winning. The alien fleet, once an unbreakable wall of discipline and firepower, was in disarray. Their ships, designed for calculated, overwhelming force, weren't built for chaos. They weren't used to losing, and that's exactly what was happening. On Iron Requiem's bridge, Captain Grant watched the battle unfold with steely determination. The planetary defense cannons were still firing, picking off enemy ships from below, while his own warship tore through their formations like a wolf among sheep. Enemy fleet down to 47% strength, Lieutenant Harris reported, his voice filled with something approaching disbelief. They're retreating from high orbit. They're trying to regroup. Grant leaned forward. We're not letting them. He opened a direct channel to Earth's Defense Command. Bring the hammer down. Across the surface, the hidden bunkers that had remained unused for decades came to life once more. But this time it wasn't just defensive cannons. This time, humanity was sending a message. Dozens of experimental missile silos, long considered useless under alien rule, were activated at the same time. These weren't ordinary warheads. They had been quietly upgraded with salvaged alien tech, repurposed energy cores, and human cleverness. And now they were all locked onto the enemy fleet. In the span of 5 seconds, Earth launched its anger into the sky. Hundreds of missiles streaked through the void, weaving past wreckage and debris, hunting their targets with terrifying precision. The alien fleet scrambled to react, but it was too late. The first wave struck home, ripping through shield after shield, breaking hulls, exploding inside command centers. Fire and metal bloomed in the vacuum of space as their once mighty warships were torn apart. On board Iron Requiem, the crew watched in stunned silence as the largest of the alien ships, their command vessel, was struck by 3 missiles in rapid succession. Its shields flickered, then failed entirely. A final warhead slammed into its reactor core. For a split second, There was nothing but eerie stillness. Then the ship imploded, folding in on itself before a blinding explosion consumed it from the inside out. A shock wave rippled through space, scattering debris in all directions. And just like that, their leadership was gone. The remaining alien ships panicked. Some tried to fight, but their weapons were firing wildly, their formations broken. Others turned and fled, burning hard to escape Earth's gravity well, their once arrogant presence reduced to a desperate retreat. The bridge of Iron Requiem erupted into cheers, but Grant didn't celebrate. Not yet. His eyes were locked on the retreating ships. They wouldn't take this humiliation lightly. This was only the beginning. The remnants of the alien fleet scattered, their once mighty warships limping away like wounded animals. Where they had once hovered above Earth as untouchable overlords, now they fled, their arrogance shattered, their authority burned away in fire and debris. But Captain Grant wasn't smiling. He sat in his command chair, watching the tactical display as the last of their ships vanished into the void. The battle was won, but the war, that was just beginning. "They'll be back," Lieutenant Harris muttered, as if reading his mind. "And next time they won't underestimate us." Grant exhaled. No, they won't. Across Earth, the world was still processing what had just happened. Every colony, every station, every hidden outpost had watched Iron Requiem and its crew do the impossible. We hadn't just survived an alien assault. We had defeated them. But there was no time to celebrate, because now humanity had a choice. "Sir, incoming message from the Unified Earth Council," the comms officer called. "They want a full report and a strategy for what happens next." Grant's jaw tightened. He knew what the politicians would want: a defensive plan, a way to strengthen Earth's position and avoid total retaliation. But that wasn't enough. The aliens had never planned to share the stars with us. They had never seen us as equals. We had been nothing more than an inconvenience, a species to be kept contained, controlled, leashed. Until now. He stood, looking around at his crew, men and women who had risked everything to prove humanity's worth. They were tired, bruised, but their eyes burned with something he hadn't seen in a long time: determination. No more waiting. No more hiding. It was time to take the fight to them. Grant turned to the comms officer. "Send this message to the council." He took a breath, then spoke the words that would change history. "Earth stands victorious, but victory isn't enough. We have the means, we have the will, and now we have proof that they can bleed. We do not wait for their return. We strike first. Prepare the fleet. Humanity goes to war." The message sent shock waves through the world. For centuries, humanity had looked to the stars with wonder. We had dreamed of joining some great galactic civilization, of proving ourselves worthy of the cosmos. But the truth was far uglier. The aliens had never seen us as equals. They had come not to lift us up, but to keep us weak, to trap us in the illusion of progress, while making sure we never became a threat. They had ruled us with condescending smiles, enforcing peace by keeping the leash tight around our throats. But now the leash had been broken, and the masters of the galaxy had no idea what they had. But now the leash had been broken, and the masters of the galaxy had no idea what they had unleashed. The Unified Earth Council was in chaos. The battle had been broadcast to every major city, every colony, every hidden outpost that had long suspected the truth. The warship Iron Requiem was no longer just a military asset. It had become a symbol. Half the council wanted to negotiate. They feared retaliation, feared that the full force of the alien empire would crush us before we could even build another warship. But the other half saw what Grant and his crew had proven. The aliens could be beaten, and if we waited for them to come back, it would be on their terms. "We cannot afford to sit back." Grant's voice rang out in the war room, where Earth's most powerful leaders had gathered. "They'll return, and next time they won't play games. If we wait, we die. But if we strike first, if we take the fight to them, we have a chance." "Against an interstellar empire?" one of the diplomats scoffed. "That's suicide," another added. Grant didn't blink. "No, it's war. And war is what humanity does best." The room fell silent because deep down, they all knew the truth. From the moment the aliens arrived, we had been living on borrowed time. The only reason they hadn't wiped us out was because they hadn't needed to. But they needed to now. How? Someone finally asked. Even if we wanted to fight, how do we go on the offensive? We have one warship. Grant smiled. We had one warship before the battle. Now we have an entire planet ready to fight. And that was the difference. Humanity had always been at its best with its back against the wall. The moment we realized we had nothing left to lose, we became something the galaxy had never seen before, something terrifying. Survivors, warriors, predators. And now we had a target. Deep in the outer system, hidden away from prying eyes, a facility came to life. It had been built in secret, a place where human engineers had worked tirelessly to study every scrap of alien tech they could get their hands on. Until now, their work had been slow, careful, limited by the fear of discovery. But now they had Iron Requiem. They had wreckage from the battle. They had proof that humanity could do the impossible. And within days, they were building something new, something bigger, something designed for war. 2 weeks after the battle, when the first alien reinforcements arrived expecting to find a crippled planet and a terrified species, they found something else instead. They found another warship, then another, and another. The first fleet had been built from scraps. The next would be built for vengeance. For the first time in history, Earth wasn't just defending itself. We were coming for them, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The first wave of alien reinforcements entered the system cautiously. Their battle records from the previous encounter told them what they should expect. A single rogue warship, a defiant but ultimately doomed species, a planet still licking its wounds. But what they found was something else entirely. Earth wasn't broken. It wasn't cowering. It was arming itself for war. From the bridge of Iron Requiem, Captain Grant watched as the alien fleet took position just beyond the asteroid belt. Their ships hovered in tight formation, their weapons primed, but their movements hesitant. They had learned their lesson. This wasn't going to be a simple punishment mission. A message came through, crisp and cold. Human forces, you have violated interstellar law. Cease all hostilities and submit. This is your final warning. Grant smiled. Final warning. They were still pretending they had control of the situation. He gestured to his comms officer. Broadcast on all channels. A second later, his voice carried through the void, reaching not only the alien fleet, but every human listening from Earth, its colonies, and its secret bases across the system. This is Captain Grant of Iron Requiem. Earth does not recognize your authority. Your rule over us is over. If you want this system, come and take it. The challenge was set. A tense silence followed. Then the aliens fired. Missiles, plasma beams, and metal slugs streaked toward Iron Requiem. But this time, she wasn't alone. From behind Earth's moon, 3 newly completed warships emerged, engines flaring. They were smaller than Iron Requiem, less advanced, but they were fast, armed to the teeth, and human-built. They cut through the void like wolves descending upon prey. The battle erupted in an instant. The new warships flanked Iron Requiem, unleashing hell upon the alien forces. Their weapons weren't elegant like the enemy's. They were brutal, raw, designed with one purpose, to kill. Railgun slugs smashed through shields. Missile barges scattered enemy formations. Experimental energy cannons, born from stolen alien tech, carved through the darkness. The aliens faltered. For centuries, they had controlled humanity with a single lie, that we could never reach their level, that they were beyond us. And now, for the second time, we had proven them wrong. One of their battleships exploded as a human warship drove straight through its weakened hull, guns firing at point-blank range. Another enemy cruiser, damaged and panicked, tried to retreat, only to be hunted down and torn apart by our forces. The tide of war had shifted, and this time, it wasn't just one rogue warship standing against them. It was an entire species. Humanity wasn't fighting for survival anymore. We were fighting for dominion. In the alien high command, light years away, the news arrived. A war council convened, their long, sleek forms gathered around a massive holographic display. They stared at the images coming in. Humans, once considered primitive, now standing victorious over 2 of their fleets. One of them finally spoke, their voice slow and filled with disbelief. They weren't supposed to be capable of this. Another, higher-ranked, exhaled. "We've made a mistake." A long silence followed. Then their supreme commander rose from his seat, his expression unreadable. "No." His voice was steel. "We made them a mistake, and now we will correct it." Across the stars, a full invasion fleet, one large enough to shatter entire civilizations, was mobilized. Humanity had won 2 battles, but now the real war was about to begin. The full invasion fleet arrived 3 weeks later. It did not come with threats. It did not come with warnings. It came with fire. Massive alien dreadnoughts, each the size of cities, emerged from hyperspace, blotting out the stars. Cruisers, battleships, and fighter swarms filled the void, moving with cold precision. The benefactors had finally abandoned their arrogance. This was no longer a punitive strike. This was extermination. On board Iron Requiem, Captain Grant stared at the incoming fleet. His crew had fought impossible battles before, but this was different. The aliens had brought everything this time. "How many ships?" Grant asked, his voice steady. Harris swallowed hard. "Over 200. Maybe more." The war room was silent. Earth's fleet had grown in the past weeks. They had built more warships, upgraded old defense platforms, and rallied every hidden outpost capable of fighting. But even with all that, they were still outnumbered 10-1. For a moment, the weight of it settled over them. The undeniable reality that humanity, despite its defiance, despite its victories, was still a young race standing against an empire that had ruled the stars for millennia. For the first time, someone whispered what they had all been thinking. "We can't win this." A long silence followed. Then Grant spoke. "Then we won't fight to win." Eyes turned toward him. "We fight to change the game." The moment the alien fleet entered high orbit, Earth's defenses opened fire. From the ground, hundreds of missile silos, railgun batteries, and energy cannons unleashed hell. From the void, human warships surged forward, moving in tight formations, targeting enemy weak points with brutal efficiency. The first wave was devastating. Alien ships exploded in fiery blooms, their shields overwhelmed by concentrated fire. Battleships collapsed under relentless missile barrages. Entire enemy squadrons were wiped out before they could even return fire. But then the main fleet retaliated, and the real slaughter began. The dreadnoughts tore through human lines with terrifying force. Their weapons carved massive holes in Earth's defenses, shattering ships in single blasts. Entire battalions of fighters were erased in the blink of an eye. Earth's warships, for all their newfound strength, were still fragile compared to the might of an ancient empire. One by one they fell. The Valkyrie went first, caught in the crossfire of 3 enemy cruisers. Its reactors detonated, taking an entire section of the battlefield with it. Then the Argos, overwhelmed by enemy fighters, its hull ripped apart before it could even send a distress call. Iron Requiem fought like a demon, weaving through the chaos, its guns firing non-stop. But even the legendary warship couldn't hold forever. "Shields failing," someone shouted. "Left thrusters down." Grant's hands tightened into fists. They were running out of time. Then an alert flashed across the holographic display. A private signal. One word, "ready." Grant inhaled. It was time. He opened the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, disengage. Fall back to Phase 2 position." Some hesitated. Others questioned. But they obeyed. And the aliens, believing humanity was finally breaking, pushed forward, eager to land the killing blow. Right into the trap. Deep in the asteroid belt, hidden among the debris, something stirred. For weeks, Earth's engineers had worked in secret, repurposing stolen alien technology. They had salvaged cores, rebuilt reactors, modified human weapons into something more. The project had one goal: to build a weapon not just for defense, but for eradication. And now it was ready. The moment the alien fleet moved into range, Earth's secret fleet, hidden warships equipped with experimental warp drives, activated their systems. In an instant, a dozen warships appeared behind enemy lines. Not human ships, doomsday ships. Each one carried a stolen alien singularity core, modified into a weapon of mass destruction. Each one was aimed directly at the dreadnoughts. And then, without hesitation, they detonated. The universe itself seemed to crack. 12 artificial black holes ripped through the alien fleet. Dreadnoughts, invincible and unstoppable, were crushed in an instant. Their shields, their armor. None of it mattered against the force of a collapsing singularity. Entire enemy squadrons were sucked into oblivion. Battleships were twisted and shredded before they could even process what was happening. The invincible fleet meant to end humanity was gone in seconds. The battlefield turned from a massacre to something else entirely. A victory not just for Earth, but for humanity's place in the stars. In the alien high command, silence reigned. The supreme leader watched the disaster unfold, his long fingers clenched into fists. The mighty armada, his people's greatest force, was gone, destroyed by humans. We underestimated them. Someone whispered. A pause. Then the supreme leader turned, his eyes cold. No, we miscalculated, and now the mistake will be corrected. Across the galaxy, new orders were sent. The war wasn't over. It was only just beginning. The victory was absolute. The alien fleet, once the galaxy's unchallenged enforcers, was shattered, its remains drifting lifelessly in the void. Earth stood bloodied but unbroken, a defiant ember in the dark. But the war was far from over, because now the galaxy was watching. In the days following the battle, Earth sensors picked up a surge of interstellar activity. Dozens of alien species, once silent under the rule of the so-called benefactors, were now stirring. Some sent encrypted transmissions, their messages wary but intrigued. Others mobilized fleets of their own, either to observe or prepare for what they feared would come next. Because for the first time in history, a species had not only defied the Empire, it had defeated them. On the bridge of Iron Requiem, Captain Grant stared at the holographic displays, watching as intelligence reports flooded in. The Council had gathered in a secure war room back on Earth, and every surviving fleet commander was present. The discussion was heated. We've won 3 battles, but we can't win a war against an entire empire, one of the senior diplomats argued. They'll come back in numbers we can't even comprehend. We don't have a choice, Harris shot back. If we sit and wait, they'll wipe us out the moment they rebuild. Grant remained silent, listening. The truth was, both sides were right. Earth had just pulled off the impossible, but they were still one planet against a vast empire. They couldn't just defend. They had to change the rules of the war. Finally, Grant spoke, his voice calm, steady. We don't need to fight them alone. Eyes turned toward him. We're not the only ones under their thumb. Every species they've conquered, every world they've strangled under their so-called guidance, they're all watching us right now. And for the first time, they're seeing something new. A pause. Hope. A heavy silence followed. Grant leaned forward. We don't just fight for Earth anymore. We fight to break their empire entirely. A new war. Not just for survival, but for revolution. For dominion. Across the galaxy, whispers turned into action. Hidden resistance movements, once too afraid to rise, sent messages to Earth. Rebellions that had been crushed generations ago stirred once more. Some still hesitated, fearful, uncertain if humanity could truly lead the charge. So Earth sent them a message, a single video broadcast across every secret channel, showing the remains of the alien fleet. The once invincible warships reduced to scrap, their mighty dreadnoughts torn apart by human hands. And with it, a simple declaration. We are no longer the hunted. We are no longer beneath them. Humanity stands. Join us. On the alien homeworld, the supreme leader stood before his war council, his gaze sweeping over his commanders. Their faces were grim. Even the most arrogant among them could no longer deny the truth. The humans weren't an anomaly. They were a problem, a contagion, a spark that threatened to set the entire empire ablaze. The supreme leader exhaled slowly, then spoke with finality. Then we burn them first. Orders were given across the empire. Fleets mobilized. Factories roared to life, producing warships faster than ever before. New weapons, ones never before seen, were being developed with a singular purpose, the eradication of humanity. Because if they let Earth stand, if they let humans continue to rise, then it wasn't just the empire that would fall. It was their entire rule over the galaxy. And that was something they could never allow. Back on Earth, as the first fleets of allied species arrived. Hesitant, wary, but willing, Grant stood on the bridge of Iron Requiem, staring into the void. The real war was coming, and humanity was ready. The war came faster than anyone expected. Within weeks, the alien empire unleashed its full might, sending armadas the size of moons to crush Earth before its rebellion could spread. The skies above our planet burned with battle, and for a moment, it seemed like the empires would finally bring humanity to its knees. But we had already changed the game. What had begun as a desperate struggle for survival had become something more, a war of revolution. Humanity was no longer alone. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under the Empire's rule for centuries rose up. Civilizations that had once been cowed into submission now saw what was possible. They saw Earth fight. They saw Iron Requiem carve legends into the void. And they saw something the Empire had spent millennia ensuring no species would ever believe. The gods of the galaxy could bleed. Rebellions exploded across 100 worlds. Supply lines crumbled. Entire fleets defected. The Empire, once an unshakable force, found itself facing the one thing it had always feared, an enemy that didn't just resist, but refused to lose. And in the final battle, as the Empire's homeworld itself burned, it became clear this wasn't just Earth's war anymore. It was humanity's ascension. When the dust settled, the Empire was gone. Its leaders either dead or in hiding. Its fleet scattered. Its legacy reduced to whispers in the dark. And standing at the heart of it all, among the wreckage of a fallen dynasty, was Earth, a species that had once been given scraps, a species that had been told it would never amount to anything, a species that had taken its first steps into the stars, not as servants, not as victims, but as conquerors. Humanity had rewritten history, and the galaxy would never forget it. On the bridge of Iron Requiem, Captain Grant looked out at the stars, stars that once seemed so distant, so unreachable. Now they were just the beginning.